One of our favorite sponsors is back with us, Sunset Lake CBD.
Yeah.
If you're looking for CBD that actually does what CBD is supposed to do, look no further than our friends over at Sunset Lake.
Let me break it down.
Break it down, Mel.
They're sustainably farmed, meaning they avoid pesticides and use sustainable farming practices to preserve the land for future generations. 1. 2, farm to table. They ship the CBD products straight from their door in Vermont directly to your door wherever you're at.
Now that's cool.
And third party tested. They test everything with a third party to ensure quality, dosage, and safety.
You got to go over and check out sunsetlakecbd.com. They have so many products. Break it down for them, Apple.
Well, they've got some new stuff going on. Like they always had pre-rolls, but now they got really cool packaging for it. And you can get CBD pre-roll flights of all their flavors. You can get the heavy hitter flight that also throws in some of their Keef blunts. They have a new CBD recovery body lotion.
I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other?
The other one with arnica.
The extra strength muscle rub, 3,000 milligram with 5% lidocaine.
So look,
Oh, yeah,
if you're
lidocaine.
sore, this is the stuff you want to rub on your body to make those aches and pains go away. They even have CBD infused coffee, so you can have coffee without the little jitter that you get from caffeine, and you have it in the morning and you start your day off right. Your body feels lubricated. You're going to sleep good.
Yeah, and also they have, if you kind of forget to reorder, they've got subscriptions.
And they're giving the No Simple Road family 20% off.
20% off.
Put
with
in the promo code NSR20 when you're checking out at sunsetlakecbd.com. You're going to get 20% off your entire order.
NSR20.
And don't forget those cute little gummy bears.
That's right. sunsetlakecbd.com. One of our favorite sponsors is back.
Well, I'm so perplexed, so I use Germ-X time after time like Cyndi Lauper. I haven't measured 6 feet this much since the time I sold sneakers to a grasshopper. Well, quarantine sorta means cooping up with Tiger King. Carol Baskin really kills the time. Every day is April Fool's, all the kids are homeschooled, learning about the Amazon Prime. One thing the virus shows us is we're all the same. Support the scientists who work real hard, don't antibody shame. But I'm gonna shame Corona 'cause I don't care. Under a microscope it looks as though Coolio cuts its hair. Life stings like a thumbtack, hope the jobs come back. Working folks could use a little hoping. And how about a little more than we were making here before? Raise me up and call me Josh Groban. Corona's practically a big parasite. A real life film on social class, but no Oscar win tonight. They feed us words of wisdom so we can sleep. But you know what the birds say about the words? Talk is really cheap, 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 cheap.
That was Madison Ward from Madison Ward and the Mama Bear, who have been on No Simple Road. And if you haven't heard that episode, you should check it out.
That was a sweet, heartwarming, really loving episode.
Made me smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that song made me smile too. And
These are so talented.
totally. To be able to come up with those off the cuff like that is rad. But there's a lot of artists out there that are in need. And No Simple Road and Osiris Media are partnering with some nonprofits. And this week we are talking about Sweet Relief. This
is awesome.
This one's so cool. Sweet Relief is providing immediate assistance to anyone in the music industry who's been financially impacted by COVID-19. If you are part of the music industry, including artists, crew, venue workers, agents, managers, photographers, like Jay Blakesberg, they're paying for vital expenses for all you guys, including things like medical bills, health insurance, prescriptions, utility and telephone bills, groceries, auto-related expenses, and clothing. So you guys, applications are being accepted now. Please apply for help, or if you want to donate to help those in need, you can go to sweetrelief.org. That's RELIEF.org, and donate or sign up if you need a hand.
If you know somebody who needs it, send it on their way.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for standing up, Sweet Relief.
Yeah.
Right on. And speaking of Osiris Media, we have a huge announcement for all of you out there. There is a new podcast coming to the Osiris Media family.
Pray tell, what is it?
It is Eric Krasno Plus One.
Yeah.
Check that out. It's a new podcast from Osiris Media, bringing the audience backstage to listen in on tales told between musicians. After 20 years on the road, Grammy Award-winning guitarist Eric Krasno has spent time sharing stories with countless artists, and these conversations have become some of the most cherished memories. In Eric Krasno Plus One, Eric invites you to hear the stories that unfold over a lifetime as a musician, from early inspirations to discussions about the state of the music industry, to the challenges of life on the road, backstage shenanigans, and much more. Krasno engaged approach creates interviews that feel like conversations between friends. And these guests run the gamut, from veterans like Phil Lesh, John Mayer, Dave Matthews, Derek Trucks, to today's innovators like Mac Ayers, Marcus King, and Emily King. While their journeys may differ, there's an intrinsic bond that only exists between musicians. Become the fly on the wall you always wished you could be. This is going to drop the first couple episodes on April 20th, 4/20. So check it out.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out our episode with Eric Krasno, check it out because it was pretty awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, he was gracious enough to step up early on for us and be a guest.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Osiris Media and
Yeah.
No Simple Road. Hey,
Congratulations, Eric.
Yeah.
On your new pod.
I thought it was pretty cool that Ryder took that Harry's razor and bicked his head with it.
He sure did.
He-
and he made everybody feel his head.
It was all smooth.
He's
and
like,
slick.
it's the softest thing I've ever felt.
It was pretty slick.
It is, yeah.
Very shiny.
Shiny-headed Ryder. You guys need to see it. Now is not the time to be overpaying for razor blades at the drugstore, you guys.
No.
Sometimes it's better to just stay home. So you can get these razors shipped directly to you so you can experience the smooth shininess of the top of Ryder's head anywhere on your body that you so choose. I think that's a good thing. They're hooking up the No Simple Road family. This is $3.
Oh my God, it's such a cool package too. It comes with shaving cream. It comes with 2 blades or 3 blades?
It's a 5-blade razor.
No, 2 blades. I meant
extras.
Like,
Yeah, and all kinds
in
of
a
stuff.
cute box.
Mm-hmm. 10 million people have tried Harry's. So if you want to claim your offer, you can go to harrys.com/NSR. And with them, this is the cool stuff. Like, quality is what it's all about. They're offering 100% money back guarantee, and 1% of the proceeds are set aside for nonprofit organizations devoted to helping provide better access to health care for men and veterans, which is pretty freaking awesome. The way they get this stuff to you so cheap is they cut out the middleman. They have like this blade factory somewhere in Germany that's been doing it for like 100 years. So you get like high quality blades at factory direct prices. Pretty tight, man. So your offer is going to include a weighted ergonomic handle for a firm grip, a 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel with aloe to keep your skin hydrated, and a travel blade to keep your razor dry and easy to grab on the go when you can finally travel somewhere other than to your bathroom and your toilet and your bed. Go to harrys.com/NSR to start shaving better today, you guys. $3. That's all you're going to pay for this whole package of stuff. Pretty tight. And No Simple Road is also brought to you by
Shop
Tour Bus.
Our friends over at Shop Tour Bus are hooking you up with the coolest stuff ever. Grateful Dead inspired t-shirts, stickers,
Hoodies.
all of it, man.
Little baby.
The latest one, the
clothes.
Standing on the Moon, is awesome.
Yeah.
Somebody
It's
told me that it looks like Mel, and it does.
Really?
It looks a little bit like skeleton Mel standing on the moon with a top hat on.
Who said that?
It might have been Rain or Cindy, one of those two. I can't remember, but
All right.
you got to pull it up and check it out. Go to
It does have puffy.
It does.
curly
Go
hair.
to at Shop Tour Bus on Instagram to check this
Okay.
out, or shoptourbus.com online. Order yourself some really nice stuff to to make yourself feel better during this weird time. And because you're part of the No Simple Road family, they're going to give you free shipping if you put in the promo code No Simple Road when you check out. What are we going to say, Apple?
It does. I had it pulled up to see if they had anything new. It does look like Mel. I never I was like, oh shit.
I totally wear that outfit. That's for
Mel.
sure.
You would. So check it out, you guys.
And they have those cool rosebud stickers too.
Yeah, those are awesome. So check it out. You're going to get free shipping. You're going to get a hand-designed box. You're going to get a bootleg in there. And you're going to be taking care of the No Simple Road family. So head over to @ShopTourBus on Instagram or shoptourbus.com online and support the No Simple Road families of sponsors, including
Define Premium Cannabis.
I like that. We rolled right into it like a steamroller.
So that's where I'm at still through all this. So if you are needing to take care of your body, your head, your soul, whatever you need to take care of, come on out. Visit us in Hillsboro. That's where I'm at. You can ask for me. I will come out and tend your bud, get your lotion, get your edibles, whatever you need.
He actually comes out dressed as a Viking, holding a giant.
Now I'm a Viking.
Cola from a marijuana plant that he will tap you on either shoulder with and knight you. Yep, you will become.
And if
a
that's
knight.
too much for you, go on out to Forest Grove. Visit that location. I will not be there and floating out or turning into a Viking or anything.
No.
But both shops, we will take care of you. We have great staff that is very educated in everything we carry. We will get you educated. We will get you set up with what you need for what ails you. And if you mention that you listen to No Simple Road,
What's going to happen?
we will give you 10% off your discount.
Whoa.
And
What?
you'll get a free t-shirt.
Oh,
What?
wow. We're going to clothe you. We're going to take care of your ailments. And we're going to give you some extra money in your pocket. Check it out. No Simple Road is hooking you up. Define's hooking you up. Our sponsors are hooking you up. Hook them up. We love you guys.
Hey everyone, Chris Pandolfi from the infamous String Dusters here to let you know that my podcast, Inside the Musician's Brain, is back on the airwaves for Season 4, which means it's time once again to get deep with influential musicians from all across the musical landscape to really understand and translate the lessons of success, failure, inspiration, and hard work that are behind the music and the artists that we love. My guests this season include Rachel Price from Lake Street Dives, Sam Bush, Chris Wood, Chris Funk from The Decemberists, Lindsay Liu, MC Taylor from His Golden Messenger, and more. Check us out, and thanks for listening.
We're so excited to tell you a bit about today's sponsor, Music Masters Collective. They are a nonprofit organization that produces unique music events, providing opportunities for fans and artists to meet and collaborate in an inspired and creative atmosphere.
Music Masters Collective events give you the opportunity to learn from world-class musicians like Otil Burbridge, Steve Earle, Richard Thompson, former members of the band, the Milk Carton Kids, Nikki Glaspie, the Fab Four, and Sean Colvin, and so many more.
At an event like the Milk Carton Kids Sad Song Summer Camp happening this July, you can expect immersive classes, evenings of entertainment, excellent food, and a space for a lucky group of folks to learn, co-write, workshop, and perform with like-minded peers, all with the guidance of Kenneth Pattengale, Joey Ryan, and some of their favorite songwriters. This all-inclusive week in the Catskill Mountains of upstate New York is guaranteed to be magical. Scholarships are available and spots are extremely limited, so visit www.sadsongsummercamp.com/simple to learn more. That's www.sadsongsummercamp.com/simple. Check it out.
No simple road. No simple road. No simple road. No simple road.
Hi, I'm Ben Sawyer, and I'm the co-host of the Road to Now podcast on the Osiris Podcast Network. Each week, my partner Bob Crawford and I speak with experts to discover how history has shaped the politics, culture, and economy of the world we inhabit. I'm a history professor and stand-up comic, and Bob is a founding member of the Avett Brothers with a deep knowledge of history and theology. Together, we work to bring history to the public in a way that is informative, accessible, and, we hope, entertaining. You can find the Road to Now podcast anywhere you get this Osiris podcast, or on our website at www.theroadtonow.com. That's www.theroadtonow.com. We hope you'll join us on the road and that you thoroughly enjoy this episode of our fellow Osiris podcast.
What's it smell like, Apple? What does it smell like?
I don't know.
It smells like old foam and cigarettes.
Remember, they smelled like gas kind
Yeah,
of
they
at
don't
first when we
smell
got
like
it.
that.
Yeah,
Chemically
we're talking
smells
about
gone.
the
microphone.
microphone.
I'm sitting here
wind
smelling my
socks on the
microphone as he
microphone.
turns it on.
Hey now, No Simple Road family, welcome back to another edition of No Simple Road. This week's guest is the
Jay.
preeminent Jay Blakesberg. So if you don't already know, I'm pretty sure you probably do because you tuned into the episode, but just in case you don't, in our scene, there is iconic photographs that have been taken. This gentleman is responsible for a huge number of those photographs that are indelibly impressed in your psyche. Like the final bow at Fare Thee Well with all the guys standing on the stage. That was Jay Blakesberg.
And that was his idea.
Yeah. That picture of Jerry that you see where Jerry's got his glasses pulled down on his nose and he's kind of looking up at you. That was Jay Blakesberg. So
And you're going to hear some interesting stories about both of those photographs in this interview.
yeah, so this was a huge deal for us to get to talk to Jay, and this came on the heels of us finding out that Skull and Roses had been postponed until 2021, and you know this was a couple of weeks ago that we recorded this episode, so this was at the beginning of the current COVID-19 debacle crisis pandemic thing that we're in right now. So we were like, it was kind of like getting a new pair of shoes. We had just put on the quarantine sized slippers and they were a little tight. They hadn't broken in yet. So we were trying to figure it out still and how to do an interview in the midst of this thing that's happening.
We did just fine.
No,
And he was great.
Yeah, these are the interviews that I love. Like, I can just ask a couple of questions and hear stories for an hour.
All the interviews that Dennis has sent us this year for the lead into Skull and Roses has been really priceless. A lot of really great stories, great storytelling, good material, like good historical things, and just fun. Like,
Yeah,
really
all of them have been
fun.
like really, they're all very entrenched into this community going back to the 70s, 60s.
Yeah, I feel like this is a
50s.
collection. Like, okay, No Simple Road has like, a bunch of episodes, but like the Big Steve, Jay, Kimmock, the one you guys are going to hear in a couple weeks.
Mick Bondi.
Yeah, just that there. I feel like that is like a really good little classic. Like, just they stand on their own.
What were you saying the other day about if we stop No Simple Road right now?
Oh, well, I was just saying because we had just finished interviewing Maria, Mick, and Kat of
The Garcia
Project, and listening to that CD that Dennis had sent us,
Wow.
which was beautiful and amazing, and it was great. But I said to Aaron and Apple, I was like, if we, for some reason, No Simple Road had to stop right now, just with what we've done as far as these interviews, they go down in like the dead history of really incredible interviews and like great pieces of history in
Snapshots.
themselves. Yes,
Yeah.
of the people behind the scenes and in front of the scenes who have like spearheaded this beautiful music. So, and kept it alive.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And so that's what I was saying, that I recognize that about what we're doing and
We have a
about
wealthy body of material.
Yeah, and that's just the Grateful Dead
you have a
stuff.
wealthy body too, Avalon.
Yeah,
well,
I do.
that's just the Grateful Dead stuff too. Like, we have so much other amazing jam band music that it's history.
It's a trip, man. Like when we talked to Chris Dyer,
Yes.
I asked him, I was like, hey, Chris, are you proud of the work
Yeah.
that you've done? Remember?
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of what we've done with No Simple Road, not in a cocky way, not in a like
No, you should be
I'm
proud.
proud of
Proud
us
to go back and
for-
listen to
yeah,
it. Like
man.
it's quality, it's good. We haven't had a stinker.
No.
In the
I
bu-
think
you
maybe
know?
some people out there would disagree with you, but as far as
But
I'm concerned,
but as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
I mean,
listen
yeah,
back.
some people may not like
Yeah.
some of the people we've interviewed or something, but I love every one of them.
Well, I mean, even like the older episodes, because they were raw, that was what was good about it.
Yeah.
And then the newer, more polished episodes, it's polished.
we're more polished.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
had a-
think a little bit.
I had a customer tell it was yesterday. No, it was this morning. A customer came in and told me he didn't know. Comes in all the time. I told him about the podcast last week, and he started listening. And he told me today, he's all, I have to, the way I listen to things, like watch things. He's like, I listened to one of your really recent interviews to see if I felt you were worth investing the time of starting at the beginning. And he said, I listened to one of your interviews. He listened to Kyle Hollingsworth and was like, that was fantastic. He's also, I went and started back at the beginning to get to know
Oh shit!
everybody better. I was like, at first I was kind of like, well, you're judging me.
How dare you, sir?
You got to weigh my worth.
You've been weighed,
You know?
and you weren't found wanting.
Yeah, and he was like, it was really, really cool. And we also got, I forgot to share this with you, we got a compliment from one of my vendors at work. I talked to him the other day to placing orders, and he started listening a few weeks ago because he didn't know either. He's an older guy. I was talking to him, and he started listening, and he was in radio for like 30 years. And he said he started at the beginning, and he said it sounds so good. And I told him like what we were working with at the beginning, and he goes, well, I skipped through some. And he's on your progression. He's all, you guys, and he asked about Aaron specifically. He goes, was he in radio or TV or something?
Well, kind of.
Yeah, well, I told him.
I've never been behind the
I
mic
told, he's a
before.
really cool guy, and I told him a little bit of like what we did with your dad, the highway patrol, different things, and he was like, man, so I was in radio a long time. You guys are nailing it. So it was like a compliment
thanks,
from
man.
somebody that's in the radio
and
business.
and that's like, it fits with this week's episode. Like, we talked to Jay about that, about getting kudos from, feeling like you fit and being connected to the community that you're doing the thing for. And it's a huge deal, man. It's been a big deal for our lives, and doing the show is
It's altered our life so much.
totally. I was.
What do you think is like one of the biggest things for you personally that the show has like altered or brought to you, or
Oh wow!
I know exactly what it is
what?
for me.
What for you?
I no longer feel like just a spectator. I feel fully
A little
like
potato?
we're just talking about, like a dictator. No, I'm a dictator. No, I just feel like what I always, we've talked about this on the show several times. Like it used to be on the just like in the crowd, and still in the crowd. But now we've gotten so involved in it, and I think a lot of people that are spectators feel the same way. Our community takes you in, and I just feel like part of it. Like we're sitting at the table now. As well as just like part of the whole.
Yeah.
Instead of just kind of one-sided, like, good, that'd be so cool to
It
talk
brought
to that
you in.
person. yeah. I just,
That's cool.
I think the biggest
Yeah,
is
like I'm sure there's a lot.
self-confidence.
Oh.
Self-confidence that what I have to say is worthwhile, and that I have a voice, not a physical voice. Like I get that I have a voice, but like,
yeah, this is not his real voice. It's
Your
a put
voice
on.
carries weight.
like this.
No, your voice carries weight.
I don't know about all that,
I think I know that.
but what I have to say matters, and there's people that listen, and it's given me confidence to be myself more in everything, not just here. Like, I realize that there's no separation between what we're doing right now and the rest of the world. So I would do this before and feel very confident, and then be at work or somewhere else and oh shucks myself, and I don't do that anymore.
It didn't carry over.
It didn't, and now it does. So I think that's the biggest. I mean, there's 1,000 million things that this has done, and I just tonight we did the story time and Apple's reviews, and Mel did her meditations with Mel today, and that got posted on our Instagram. And I was taking a nap this afternoon after work, and as I was falling asleep, I was thinking, man, if we weren't doing No Simple Road, I wonder what the hell we would be doing during all of this quarantine. Like, every night we have something to do during the week, and we're still recording interviews and episodes, and we're doing all this stuff. Like,
yeah, our time is
our
occupied.
time is being utilized.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really grateful to the show right now for what it's giving me personally. And I hope that you guys out there are getting it too. Like, it's giving that to you. It's an hour and a half that you can sit down and chill out and breathe and relax and have some fun with us, man, because we're all in this together, you guys, and I need you guys. We need you guys just like you need us. And that's what family is about, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I've been having really weird fucking dreams during this. I don't know if you guys out there have too.
Sydney,
Everybody has.
So
before you get into your dream, I was randomly talking to Sid today, and she was like, all the girls on the dance squad, they happened to start talking about their dreams, and all of them were saying that they were having super vivid dreams and like stuff that they would never dream before.
I know that, like, this episode isn't a metaphysical episode. This isn't a spiritual. The content of this is not about that. This is Jay Blakesberg. But just give me a second here. I realized something or felt something today that I want to tell you guys about. And Mel and Apple haven't heard this. This is news too. Like, there's something going on underneath everything. There is something happening. I don't know what it is. I am not that smart, but there's something up. There's been, in the past 3 days, there have been so many synchronicities that it's like getting slapped for me. Like, sometimes when synchronicities happen to us, to me, I have the tendency to explain it away to myself or forget about it.
I think a lot of people do that.
And this, I haven't had the opportunity to do that the past couple of days. Like, it continually has been punching me in the face over and over again. I've seen from several different sources things talking about upgrading our DNA, going into a period of time where our DNA is being upgraded by the frequency that we've entered into in the solar system. Just a bunch of different things that like that. And one of the things was really odd dreams. People are not prophetic dreams, but symbolic, off the wall dreams people are having. And so last night, Mel was giving me a face massage. And while she was giving me a face massage, I was dreaming. And I was dreaming about a fish. And the fish was throwing up spiders. It was throwing up tarantulas. And then when I went to bed, it happened again. And both times when I was falling asleep, we have this like electric tea kettle that has like a blue LED light in it when you turn it on. And I kept seeing the tea kettle boiling, and going to reach to shut it off and realizing that I wasn't actually in the room with the tea kettle, that I was dreaming, and it was happening over and over again to the point where I got up and couldn't sleep because of it. And so I looked up what the salmon means and what the tarantula means, because that's what it was, a salmon throwing up a tarantula. And both of them come when you're going through a time of struggle, and they're speaking of leveling up consciousness and perseverance through a tough time. Both of them. Not one, both of them. It's kind of weird. And then this morning, Apple says to me that there was the radio station that had people calling in and telling their dreams.
Yeah, call us in and tell your dreams, and they stopped it after 24 hours and said, please stop sharing your dreams. They got a lot of weird feedback.
So, my point in all of that was call the hotline, 971-808-1524, 971-808-1524. I want to hear your guys' dreams, and if it's okay with you, say so when you call in. If it's okay for us to play them on the show, but I want to hear collectively what's going on in our collective unconsciousness together. I want to check it out and see. I mean, we have this platform to be able to hear from each other in that way, so let's use it and see if we can figure out what's going on together. I think it'd be a cool little thought experiment thing we could do. Be neat.
Yeah.
So.
And, well, if you're throwing that out there, yesterday I had a thought where we check in on some musicians, here and there. And I said to Aaron this afternoon, I was like, we should absolutely be checking in on our family, on the No Simple Road family. How are you guys doing out there? So if you want to reach out to us and let's schedule a time, we don't have to do it long. In fact, it'd be great if we did maybe 10, 15 minutes and we can stitch together maybe an episode of how the family's doing, how this family's feeling. And so if you feel like it, email us or drop us a DM, or however you want to get a hold of us is fine.
You can get to us through info@nosimpleroad.com, and you can also DM us on Instagram at NoSimpleRoad.
Yeah, and Aaron and I, sometimes I do it, Aaron mostly, but we'll respond back and let's get you on. Let's see how our family's doing. It would be really cool for everybody to just share a little bit of what's going on with them, and so we can all hear how each other is doing.
And I'm just going to shout out Buzz, PJ, John B, Justin, Rain, Rosie,
Kate,
yeah,
Christina,
Song, all you people that are part of everybody
family.
Listening is part of the family, but
yeah,
those are names that I see all the time interacting with us. So if you're into it, hit us up.
Yeah, Rosie.
Yeah. So let's do
Rosie,
the business.
we'd love to talk to you. Sorry,
that's the third Rosie.
Rosie.
In case you're listening.
And hold on, I just want to say one thing about what you were talking about too. That it's a trip what's going on now, because consciousness is changing. Everybody's restless and stuff because there is change going on. Mm-hmm. And to me, there's always good and bad in that, because there's a whole lot of people on this planet that aren't ready for change, and there's a whole lot of us that are. And
it still isn't comfortable.
It's going to be very interesting to see where this all goes. And in the end, I think for a lot of us, it's going to be a very good thing. This is a change in the world. It's time to wake up.
Wow. Yeah. I 100% agree. And that's what I was talking about earlier, and I can feel it. When the agitation is gone and the anxiety over everything is culled down to a dull roar, I can feel something happening, and it's big and crazy. And I felt my intuition tell me today, just hang on, man. Just hang on. It's going to be okay. Just hang on.
Yeah.
This is going to be a rough ride.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to be all right.
Yeah, it's going to get heavy. So we'll get through the other side.
I'll say it to all you guys. Just hang on, man. It's going to be all right. We got this.
I'll say to you, Aaron, just hang on. It's going to be all right.
Like a little
Cool.
kitty. He's hanging.
He's just hanging
Aaron
there.
Garfield.
No, just there's a
That
little
kitten,
stripy
like on the
kitty.
brand. There's like a
I just think of like Garfield with his like the old one with his on the
Scratching,
nails.
yeah.
And he's
So you guys have heard enough of us this week. You want to hear Jay Blakesberg, and we're gonna get you there. Follow us on Instagram at No Simple Road. Do all the stuff by going to nosimpleroad.com. Sign up for the newsletter there. There is the schedule of stuff that we're doing during the week on there. When concerts start happening, that is where you can find out where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing. Still got our fingers crossed for Northwest String Summit. We'll see what happens.
yeah.
We haven't
we're
heard
praying
anything.
for Northwest String Summit.
That right now is the light at the end of the tunnel as far as concerts are concerned for me. So we'll see what happens with that. You guys, we need your assistance. We are in that boat with the musicians and the crews and all that stuff. Our spring got canceled.
Yeah,
And-
2020 got
yeah.
canceled. Let's
and
be
so
real.
financially, man, if you're able, we need your help. You can drop a one-time donation at PayPal at nosimpleroad@gmail.com, or you can sign up on Patreon at patreon.com/nosimpleroad. In all seriousness, we need your help. We need to keep this thing going so that we can continue to spread love and build this family and bring you interviews and do the thing that we're passionate about, and we need your help right now. So this is me, Aaron, asking
And
you,
Apple.
and Mel,
And me.
and Darwin,
Those cute dollars.
and Ryder.
Yeah.
All right, enough seriousness. Let's get to the interview. We love you guys. Take care of each other, your chother.
Well,
Chother.
your
Yeah, take care of
yourself.
Yeah, if you're not taking care of your chother, you're no good to others.
To each other.
Your chother. That's a new
Kinda
no
sounds
simple.
like pork
is
chop,
that,
too.
Is that going in the No
That
Simple
goes-
Road
yep.
dictionary?
Yeah,
Yep.
know each other.
Chandonator, your chother,
Your
and
chother.
Spanky Booty. All right. With, wait, oh my God, I'm
Wow.
really flustered.
With no further ado,
you,
the
Apple.
No Simple Road family brings you Jay Blakesberg.
Hi there,
think we-
Jay.
Hey, all right, there we go.
Hi.
Yay. Everybody take a breath. All right, man. How's your day going,
So who
Jay?
do we have on the phone?
Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Hey, Jay. My name is Mel. I'm one of the hosts of No Simple Road. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Mel. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for taking some time out.
And then
All right. And where are you? Are you up in Portland also?
Yeah, we're all in Oregon.
Nice. Awesome.
yeah, we're sitting around. Well, usually we're outside. This is Apple. I'm one of the other ones on here. Usually we're sitting out on our porch, but it's kind of cold and rainy today, so we're gathered around the dining room table. And then,
All right. So all of you guys are together in one space.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
are.
yeah,
All right.
We-
I hope you're social distancing on opposite ends of the table.
We all
We
live
kind of
together.
are.
Yeah,
we
all
kind
live
of are.
yeah, as much as we can.
So it doesn't really matter anyway.
No, I've coughed on all their dishes, and
Excellent. All right. And then Aaron's our last person here.
yeah, that's me. How you
Yeah.
doing, man? Good to meet you finally.
Got
Jay.
it. You too. All right.
So how you faring? Where are you at?
I live in San Francisco, and I am in my house, and my wife and my two children are with me. My kids are older. They're 24 and 26, and they both live in New York City, but I imported them back here for the quarantine because they live in small apartments.
Oh, cool.
And my son's girlfriend is also here with us, so there's 5 of us here in the house, and we are at week 2 of our shelter-in-place order in California.
Wow.
Oof,
That's
yeah.
yeah. Our,
Go ahead. Bob.
our daughter is in California too, so this is her second week in quarantine, and she's about to pop. She's got a small baby, and her husband's there also. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, it's weird times.
Yeah.
A question before we get started. So, do you guys just run this raw, or do you guys edit anything afterwards?
We run it raw, but we have the ability to edit out anything you want.
Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah, I'm recording right now, but obviously
Okay.
I can take out anything. It's not live or anything like that. So
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fine. I just was curious, just so I'm aware of how it rolls. So.
yeah,
all good.
Super easy, man. I mean, the whole idea behind what we do is, there's well, you do it for a living. There's people that you enjoy listening to, or make things that you love, or have impacted your life. And so what we do is just sit down and get to know each other, basically. I mean, it's that simple.
Have a conversation.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, Jay, I think you and I met last year backstage at Skull and Roses. I think you handed me your card. And
nope, was not at Skull and Roses last year. It was an imposter.
Wow. Okay. I wonder who it was.
Was supposed to be at Skull and Roses this year, but unfortunately, no.
Yeah. I'm. Let's say.
Who was that then?
I'm
I
not
remember
sure.
that card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now. I'm pleasantly hopeful that there will be a postponement and that we will all be able to gather there sooner or later.
No, it's canceled till next year at this point. Like it's official that Skull and Roses is canceled for 2020 and will return in 2021. So,
oh wow, okay, yeah. There goes that. You know what? Yeah. I don't know how we could pull that off this year. Now, any. Like you were saying in the beginning, this is unprecedented. What's going on, man? I mean. You've been around a long time. You've never seen anything like this? I know I haven't.
No, I mean, the closest that I've seen to anything like this would be 9/11, and in my lifetime, and that was a very different thing. But I mean, I think that we're, if I'm a little bit of a news junkie, so I'm trying to read a lot and pay attention to real news as much as I can, and from what I can gather, so the shelter in place thing in California is supposed to end on April 7th. Well, that's never going to happen because we're not even near the peak of what this is going to do. I mean, we're going to just start seeing a lot of people in this country, especially the hardest areas, just start dying in larger numbers pretty quickly here, because that's what happens. I mean, the numbers are already huge as it is, and the number of cases is just going to keep on exponentially growing if people don't, stay away from each other. And I just think that this shelter-in-place thing needs to be a lockdown across the country for the next, I don't know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I'm not really sure how long it's going to be. I mean, the health experts say that this could take 14 months to clear out of our system, so to speak. And so, I know there's a lot of questions about the economy and people's sanity and people's true mental health and the entertainment industry and the concert industry and the sports industry and the restaurant industry. And, the list goes on and on and on. But, we don't need to talk about the pandemic because we're in it, we're living it.
No, brother,
we'll do another podcast on that in a year, and we can sit back and talk about how it all shook out and how we survived it and are still here to talk about it.
And that's how this has been going. We've done a couple interviews now, and it's like, okay, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way.
Let's squeeze him into the other room.
Let's go back to what this would have been like if this wasn't going on when we scheduled to
Sex,
talk.
drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
So, Jay, I've been seeing your photos forever, man. Like, I just wonder how you got started. How did that happen? I mean, was that what you wanted to be when you grew up, or was that a happy accident?
Probably both. I mean, I think that when we were growing up in the 1970s, we didn't know what we wanted to be when we grew up. We knew what we didn't want to be, right? I mean, that was pretty clear to us. I'm 58 years old. I think Mel mentioned she had a daughter who just had a baby, so I'm guessing that you're somewhere, in my range.
I'm 40. I'm 48.
Yeah, I'm 50. Yeah. Aaron's 48.
I started young, Jay. I'm at 41. So
okay, got it. So still, but you're in your 40s, so anyway. When I was a teenager, we didn't have the internet to tell us how to act or what to do, or and also the things we read books like On the Road and the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, and the one thing that we all knew is that we, didn't want to get married, have 2.3 children, and live in the suburbs and have a job that we all hated. And beyond that, we were just trying to figure it out. And so I loved taking pictures. I started using a camera, a 35 millimeter camera, back in high school when I was 16 years old. So that would put it in somewhere around 1978-ish. and early 1978, and I loved it. It became part of who I was and what my identity was. But, back then I had no idea what that meant to be a professional photographer. I didn't know what it meant to be a professional commercial photographer. We all knew that there were wedding photographers and, bar mitzvah photographers and, family photographers. But, I didn't know how you became an advertising photographer or a corporate photographer or a creative travel photographer or a rock and roll photographer. None of those things made sense. Or, I was just a kid in the suburbs with a camera taking pictures. And the only thing that we had, that informed our lives were the lyrics and the songs we were listening to, right? So totally. We could listen to a Tangled Up in Blue by Bob Dylan and be like, oh my God, there's this whole world out there. How do I get there? What do I have to do? What is the great American adventure and how do I become part of it? Right. Cause we knew we didn't want to stay in the suburbs. I mean, I remember, being in high school on a snow day and our parents were at work and we would all drop acid. Right. And, and I think that most of my friends that I was dropping acid with, their goal was to, or what happened to them, as we did this more and more was, oh my God, I can drink a case of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer and not be drunk if I take 2 hits of acid. Okay. And I was like, oh my God, I'm seeing God and and it's not a guy with a white beard and some tablets, it's like this whole world in front of me. Right. And of course, everybody reacts to, those experiences in different ways. Right. And so I was the one kid, in our group, at least. I mean, there was obviously other people that discovered the Grateful Dead and discovered that, but I was the one who fled. I was the one who was like, oh my God, I went to a Dead show, I dropped acid and I met people that were like me. Right. And they were weird and they liked the Grateful Dead too. And they wanted to, go to that next show also because there was something about it that was so magnetic, that we had to get more. It was like this intense, pull to have that experience over and over again. And, and back then, in the late 1970s or the early 1980s, we weren't even thinking in terms of experiences in our lives and how these experiences were going to define our lives or how we were going to become the sum of these experiences when we're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years old. We were just having these experiences and we knew that we loved these experiences. And also, our parents were saying, you need to go to college and you need to become a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant or, you have to do something with your life. How are you going to support yourself? All we wanted to do was have fun.
Party.
Right. Yeah. That was always the big thing. Are we having fun and are you happy? Mm-hmm. Right. And we looked at all of these other people that were maybe a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years older than us, and they were still living in their hometown of where they grew up, and they were maybe getting married and maybe having kids. And you're looking at them saying, "Are you having fun? Yeah. Are you happy?" Yeah. Because I know that I am, because I'm going to drive 9 hours to Pittsburgh to see 2 Dead shows next week.
For sure. It's funny, you and I guess it's not unique to you and me, but my experience was much the same, man. In my friend group, I was the one that was taking acid and seeing the other side and trying to figure out what that actually meant and digging into it and delving deeper and tripping out. And had friends, I grew up mainly in Vegas in high school, and there was no Grateful Dead community there. And I had friends in LA that were all Deadheads that were like, "You, sir, need to go to a Grateful Dead show." And I'm like, I don't like them. Why would I go? And they ended up getting me a ticket, and that first show blew my mind. And right. I came home and bought a school bus. Sold all my shit, and I'm gone, man. I'm not leaving. I completely relate to that feeling of finding the other people that are like me in that they're weird, and that we were all round pegs and square holes, and we weren't ready to settle down and settle for that American dream of 2 kids,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I just, for me at the time, going on the road and doing all that, I guess I didn't have the forethought or the thought of what my future was going to be like. But for you, was it always carrying a camera and shooting pictures? And then how does that get to the bands and you taking pictures for them?
Right. Well, I don't think that. I mean, yes, I did have my camera with me often. I certainly did not take my camera out and shoot all the shows that I was at, or take pictures at all the shows, even of anything that was going on. Which to this day, if I were to have regrets, that would be one of them. Like in hindsight, you're like, oh my God, you saw 250 Grateful Dead concerts and you only shot 50 of them or 60 of them, or you know what I mean? I'm like, what did you do with the other 190? Well, we took 5 hits of LSD and we danced in the back of the room and we had these experiences, right? And so, I can't complain. I can't say it's a trade-off or one is better than the other. But, no, back then I wasn't thinking, okay, like someday Pete Shapiro is going to call me up, in 30 years, this guy named Pete Shapiro is going to do this thing called Fare Thee Well, and he's going to call me and say, you're the guy that's got to document this experience for all the Deadheads, I mean, you're the guy that's going to make a book called Jerry Garcia, Secret Space of Dreams, 40 years from now. Like, no, none of that even remotely crossed my mind. When I moved to the Bay Area in the mid-'80s, 85-ish, I lived in Olympia, Washington. I went to Evergreen, so I'm a Pacific Northwest kid myself.
All right.
And so I moved to Olympia, Washington in 1982. For a brief period of time, I was there, and then I don't know if you guys know this about me, but then I had to go back to New Jersey because I had to go to prison because I got arrested with a couple thousand hits of LSD.
Oh shit!
I read about that.
Yeah, so I went back to New Jersey, and we can talk more about that if you want later.
I definitely
went back to New Jersey and did my time, and then I moved back out to the Pacific Northwest, and I lived in Olympia, and I went to college there, and then I had a girlfriend who wanted to go to school in the Bay Area. So my last year-ish of school at Evergreen, I did sort of study, work study type stuff in the Bay Area, and started doing video production and media type stuff and photography. And really it was at that point where I was like, okay, like I've got to pay my rent now. Like I've got to, I paid my rent in Olympia, but you guys are Pacific Northwest people. I don't know how long you've been there for, but in the early 1980s, in Olympia, Washington, you could rent a house for $300 and have 3 roommates or two other roommates, and it's $100 a piece, right? So it was like, pretty easy to, scrape together $100 selling a couple of T-shirts or doing whatever it is you wanted to do to, pay your rent, right? We all lived on the edge of poverty, and we didn't think we were in poverty, but we really, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it, we were.
Mm-hmm.
We made very little money, but we made enough to live and pay our bills and have fun and do our thing. And then I moved to the Bay Area, and, the Bay Area obviously being a very expensive place, although back then it wasn't as expensive, but it was still probably double what it was in Olympia. So instead of paying $100 a month, you're paying $200 a month rent. Right. And so you could still sort of live that bohemian lifestyle, and you could still, be an artist. And if you made, $400 or $500 in a month, you could pay your rent, and you could buy your food, and you could pay your, kick in your $10 towards the house electric bill, and live happily ever after. But as you get older, and then you don't want to live with 6 roommates anymore in Oakland, and you want to get your own place, and all of a sudden you're going from $200 a month for your room to $600 a month to get an apartment. And then you're like thinking, okay, well now I've got to make some more money, and how do you do that, right? And so I was trying to do it as a photographer, and that's when I probably got serious about it, was in 86-ish. I think I had a job until 87, working for that video production company that I was working with. And then I quit in 87 and became a freelancer and kind of was out on my own after that. And I bet you, when I worked at that, I bet my salary at that video production company was $18,000 a year or $16,000, nothing, but it was I was probably the richest person in my house of 6 roommates, everybody were students or starving artists or whatever it was they were doing. And so I started to think more seriously about how do I make money as a photographer. And that's when I started to really pursue it and showing my work to different, magazines. And that was really the starting point, walking into magazines or sending promos and trying to get hired by people to pay me money to do photography. And that's how it started. Wow. And that's what I did.
That's so crazy. Who were we talking to that was saying, David Gans? We were talking to David and talking about the Grateful Dead scene, and he was saying, you know, like if you have something that you're passionate about, the Grateful Dead scene, if you're willing to put in the work, the scene will create a way for
There's a
you
spot for
to
you.
get by. Yeah, there's a place for you in it. And that's exactly what
Yeah, I believe
what,
that.
Yeah. And what is it with you and the photographic medium that draws you in like that? Because I mean, for some people it's making sounds, and for other people it's writing words, and some people it's painting pictures, but for you it's capturing a moment. What is it about that keeps you moving forward and continuing to do it?
So I think that, first of all, when I was taking photographs when I was younger, and you know, going to the darkroom and developing film and developing prints on my own, I think that
What is a city without its music?
The legacy of the New York Philharmonic is incredible.
Nearly 2 centuries of history. That's a lot of music and a lot of stories.
I was sitting on stage for the very first time thinking, I can't quite believe this is happening.
Join me, Jamie Bernstein, as we explore the history of the New York Philharmonic. It's the NY Phil Story Made in New York, a podcast about a city, its people, and their orchestra. Listen wherever you get podcasts.
it really turned me on, right? It was a really exciting thing to like watch that black and white print come up while you're in the darkroom and sort of, you know, expose itself and, you know, become a reality. And so, I think that's the most important thing, is that the work that I was doing, and I even look back on some of this early work, and a lot of it is really not very good. You know, it's just the nature. But at the time, I liked it, and I believed in myself, and it was the work that I was creating on the level that I was able to create that work, right?
Right.
So it turned me on, right? It really just turned me on. And I think that even today, as a photographer at, you know, age 58, I still am turned on. Like, you know, you take some photographs and you import them into your computer, and you look at them and you're like, oh my God, I really like this. This is, you know, this makes me feel good. Right. And so I think that, you know, the minute that stops happening is when you need to stop doing that. Right. If it's not really making you feel good, then why are you continuing to do it? So I think that that's been the common thread all along, is that it's always interested me. You know, the photographs that I've been making and the photographs that other people make that I look at that inspire me and fuel the passion, you know, combined with me making work that makes me happy, is what continues to drive you to want to keep doing it over and over again.
Right. Yeah. And I get what you mean about seeing earlier work, and you just don't have the tools that you have now. You also didn't have the experience that you have now. I have the same feeling when I go back and I listen to the first 5 episodes of this. Like, I'm like, oh, whoa, boy, you know, but
right.
It is what it is, man. We didn't know what we didn't know. And now we have a whole different set of tools.
Exactly. And knowledge.
Yeah, that too. And I mean, with you, you've taken these iconic photographs, man. You took that picture of the final bow at Fare Thee Well, which, I mean, that there's so much going on there, so much being said. When you take a photograph like that, and you're alone after the show, and you're going through what you shot a day later or whatever, do you see that photo and go, that's it?
Absolutely. And so, you know, a few things on that particular photograph. So there's a whole story behind how I got that photograph and how I convinced the band to let me do that photograph, and you know, how I created that photograph, because they didn't just come out and do a bow before the show. I put that idea in their head to come out and do it so I could create that photograph. You know, I said to them, why don't you come out and thank the audience? Because you're going to do a bow at the end of the night anyway. That's a farewell bow, right? The Fare Thee Well farewell bow.
Right.
I said, but if you come out at you know, during the day before the show, and you come out and you wave to everybody and you pump your fist and you know, told Phil that he can, you know, bow down and say, I'm not worthy, and you know, you do this whole thing, then when you turn around and face the 10,000 people who are behind the stage and I'm up on the drum riser, it gives me that opportunity to create that shot. But also for me, you know, that particular photograph is super, super special because 40 years before that, I was just this kid going to see Grateful Dead concerts when I was a teenager. And so, I had this idea and I had this, feeling, vision, motivation to, someday maybe I would be the Grateful Dead's photographer. And I got to that point and I created that photograph. And to me, that's the magic of that photograph, is that arc over those 40 years from going and being this, 15-year-old kid at my first Grateful Dead concert in 1977 at Englishtown to being the guy up on the drum riser to create the defining photograph of the band at their 50th anniversary concert. And then to your point of, looking at the photo a day later. So I think I probably looked at it. I'm guessing I looked at it pretty quickly because I just wanted to see if I got it, and I felt like I did. But the next morning I got up, I flew back to Chicago. Flew back to San Francisco from Chicago, and I got into my car, and I was listening to Sirius XM Grateful Dead channel, and they were playing the show, and they were playing Not Fade Away. And I just started crying hysterically. I was in my van by myself, and I'm just sitting there crying because it was such a profound experience for me and everybody else that was there, right? It was this family reunion that we'd all been waiting for, that those Fare Thee Well shows reconnected people that hadn't seen each other in decades, that hadn't had that, there were so many people that when Jerry died, they just disappeared, right?
Yes.
People went out and they got jobs and they started raising families and moved to the Midwest. And so, if you were in San Francisco or New York or, even Portland, you were seeing Phil Lesh and friends on a regular basis, and Bob Weir or Rat Dog or whatever project was happening, and Railroad Earth and String Cheese and Fish and Humphreys and Moe, and the list goes on and on and on, right? So we were having all these regular, if you're a live music fan, you're having all these regular experiences with live music. But if you were in the middle of the country, let's say, or even, you're in Ohio in a small town and you're raising a family, you're having a career, like you're maybe seeing live music once a year. Maybe you go 3 years or 4 years before you saw a member of the Grateful Dead. You also have to remember that it took a number of years before the whole festival thing fired up.
Yep.
Right. So after Jerry died, it was still many, many years before that whole festival thing grew the way it is now. Right. So it wasn't like, oh, there's a festival 4 hours from my house and I can go there for a long weekend and see 42 bands that are in the genre of music that I love.
Right.
There was no music. And so all of a sudden, like, Fare Thee Well gets announced and everybody said, oh my God, this is my last chance. I haven't seen Phil or Bobby or Mickey or Billy or anybody, any of these bands in 18 years. It's been 18 years since I've seen it. I've got to go to this. And they went and their minds were blown.
We were there.
Great.
We went.
Right? Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah.
It truly was the greatest family reunion that we could ever possibly have. And it's also what set the stage for Dead & Co. to be as successful as they are.
Well,
right? So everybody got together and they realized, and then also, you guys are a little bit younger than me, but there's so many people that are my age, right? So we'll just say they're 52 to 60 years old, and they're empty nesters. Their kids are out of college, right? And all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, like we're not paying college tuition anymore. And I've got this great job and it's just you and me, my wife and me, or my husband and me, and we've got a disposable income. Let's go to Mexico and see Dead & Co. at Playing in the Sand. Let's go to 4 Dead & Co. shows in the summer. Let's fly somewhere. Like all of a sudden, we don't have to sleep on hotel room floors. We can actually afford to sleep in the beds in these hotels by ourselves without 10 other people in there, right? So this whole thing has shifted now to this generation of people that maybe were on tour for a summer or 5 years or 1 year or a spring break and had that experience and came back in at Fare Thee Well. And they're like, oh my God, now I can really go back and live my life again because I don't have the responsibility of these kids or, whatever. I can, I have my own company. I can fly off if I want for 4 days and go to 4 shows, or I can go to a weekend in New York. And it doesn't matter if I spend $3,000 because it's not going to change my life at this point.
Right. You just described Mel and my experience. Like going to Fare Thee Well was such a big deal for me, because of everything that you just talked about. When Jerry died, I went down a different road. I didn't start a family then. I got strung out on heroin and was homeless and was on the streets and whatever else. And then finally met Mel. She saved my ass. And,
Go Mel.
Yeah, I wasn't having it.
And, it wasn't live music wasn't there like it was in the past during all that.
Well,
we were raising kids.
It's like you said, Jay, you go into family mode. And so you start, you're educating your kids. Your vacations are planned around, SeaWorld or something like that. So it doesn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't. Live music isn't a family oriented thing necessarily until, like you mentioned, festivals start to become more popular and it was a little bit more okay to bring your kids. Yeah. So we just kind of floated, and that wasn't part of Fare Thee Well. Happened to be on our daughter's birthday, and it became a family affair at a family affair.
Yeah, and going to that thing was so important to me. It was like, my wife and my kids had seen me be into this thing for all these years, but had never experienced it, and so getting to take my family to meet my family. And for them to understand on a deeper level why Dad is the way he is. You know what I mean?
why Dad is a weirdo.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and multiply that by 70,000 people, right? Because we all had that same profound experience at Fare Thee Well, which is why the Grateful Dead are bigger now than they've ever been before. It exploded, and it exploded in all of our psyches, whether or not we took psychedelics with our family or whoever we were there with. It really, really was a life-changing, pivotal moment in Grateful Dead history.
And I think Mickey, at least in my mind, is partially responsible for the ripple effect that's going on right now from it. In that what he said at the end of that last show, he knew that it had cracked something open in all of us again. I believe it. And there's this thing that happened. I came home different after that show, in a different but the same way as when I came home from my very first show in '89 at the Forum in LA. It was this sea change, this moment of like rebirth that happened, and moving back out into the world, I felt different. I felt like we could do something awesome, and I didn't know what it was. Well, there were two key ingredients that all of us experienced, which were inspiration and passion. Right? The things that fuel us to want to do the things that we do, right? You got to be inspired by something, right? Because any one of us could, at any day when there's a live show happening anywhere in your town, you could say, oh, I'm going to go out and have that experience with like-minded people and have this once-in-a-lifetime unique experience, or I can stay home and watch something on Netflix. Right? But you know what? That Netflix show is still going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Go have that experience. Go be with other people, right? Because that's how we become better people in our lives, by mingling with other people, by talking to people, by, strangers, shaking strangers' hands, right? You go and you're standing next to somebody that you maybe have never met before. And all of a sudden it could change your life. I mean, it's an interesting story. My son, who's 26 years old, about 4 years ago, was at Fish New Year's Eve at Madison Square Garden and randomly sat next to these two this husband and wife. They smoked pot together. They drank beer together. They partied together. They were 20 years older than my son. They all had a great time. And, my son at age, whatever he was, I think when this was, he was probably 22 or something like that. Like, he never even said to them, like, where do you guys live? What do you guys do? Okay. Like, never even crossed his mind to even say that. And through a weird set of circumstances, re-met these same two people who are like two of the biggest people in Hollywood, okay? Especially the woman, the wife, okay? And my son has worked for both of that husband and wife as a professional filmmaker in the last couple of years, okay?
Oh, wow.
But never even, I mean, the woman, her name is Emma, she's Martin Scorsese's #1 producer. Okay, so she's produced every Martin Scorsese film since The Wolf of Wall Street. Okay,
Whoa.
and she just produced the Joker, the one. So she was nominated for 2 Oscars. Right? These are the people that were sitting next to my son at Fish, had no connection, and then 2 years later started working with them on film projects. Okay, because of another roundabout connection. But you never know. Like, you meet these people in these places, and He could have, he could have been on the floor. He could have been anywhere else in that arena, or he could have been home at some party because his friend or a girlfriend or somebody said, "Oh no, let's go to this little intimate party with, and have a dinner thing with 4 people," right? No, I want to go out and be with people, right? And have these experiences. You just never know where it's going to lead and what's going to happen. And ultimately we become better people and have a better life, and the world is better when you have these like-minded experiences. And for us live music people, it revolves around live music. Some people it revolves around NASCAR. Some people it revolves around camping. I don't know. Some people, everybody's different, right? But for us weirdos who are just so enamored with and fueled by the live music experience, that's where we get our inspiration and our passion, and pushes us to want to do more and to do better things. Looking at great art inspires you to make great art. So I try and look at interesting photography that inspires me, and I'm not trying to copy that photography, but I'm trying to be inspired by it. And people who are writers, filmmakers, dancers, graphic artists, again, everybody, when you're looking at good, that's why art is so important, right? It inspires. And that's why people like, our president are so stupid for saying, we don't need art. We don't need the National Endowment for the Arts. We don't need art in schools. We don't need music in schools.
No, we need good button pushers.
Right. And you know what happens when you get rid of all of that stuff? The world becomes a place of mediocrity, because there's nothing left to inspire you to try and be brilliant.
Yeah. That's so true, Jay. Like, you don't feel, it's almost like a malaise falls over you, and nothing makes you happy or excited, because you need that art to give you some kind of stimulation, that raise that passion. Otherwise, it's gray.
Yeah, life is a barcode.
And to create a history. You're I appreciate what you do so much, because I'm a visual person when it comes to I'm the person with my eyes open at the show the whole time, because I want to see everything. I want to see everybody. I want the dude dancing, but it's hard to capture that yourself with a camera. So just this morning I was looking just at some of your work and stuff, and it takes me back. The thing I love with you too is it's not just the jam, but it's across the entire music scene. Some of the pictures that you got very influential in the early 90s was like the Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Alice in Chains, Sound, all of them. And I looked back at some of those pictures you captured of Lane and people that aren't with us anymore. And it just sent you down that kind of good rabbit hole of, oh my God, I remember that time. And if it weren't for that picture, I'd have no history of that. It'd be just, a memory. I wouldn't have a visual thing to see and take me back to that place, and we need that.
And that's why I take pictures and share them with people, because I want those pictures to take people back to that time and place where there was that magic, that spark in their lives, right? So maybe it's people buy my art from me, but they buy photographs and they hang them on their wall. And a lot of times people are like, I'm looking for a specific print from a specific show, right? Whether it's Grateful Dead or some other band, because that was maybe the show where they, met their spouse or met their boyfriend, girlfriend, or connected with a new friend who became a best friend, or, took so many psychedelics that they had this profound experience that reminded them for the rest of their life, whatever it might be. And so that's what I want my art to do, my photographs to do, is to trigger these feelings, emotions, and memories, right? Just like, you're driving in a car and you hear a song that maybe you remember hearing on the car radio growing up with your mother or your father, and you're and it brings you back to that time of driving down to the beach with your family, or going on a vacation, or being in carpool, or whatever it might be. It brings you back to a space and time, and it gives you those chills down your spine and raises the hair on your arms and your neck. And that's what we want these things like music and photographs and films and things like that to do to us, right? To bring us to those, to be corny, bring us to the happy place in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel lucky that I've been able to do what I do and create the body of work that I've done. And I feel fortunate that, yes, people think of me as a Grateful Dead photographer, but I spent a lot of time working with Soundgarden and shot Nirvana in a record store in Haight Street in 1990 before Dave Grohl was even in the band, and did a portrait of the Chili Peppers in 89 when they were just starting to really get any kind of traction, and created a body of work around that whole scene, alt rock, grunge, whatever you wanted to do. And, met the Flaming Lips in 1989 and, still have an ongoing relationship with that band. I mean, I've been working with them for 31 years now. I've been shooting the Flaming Lips. And there was a couple of years here and there where I didn't get to see them for whatever scheduling reasons. And I ran into Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips, we're really good friends. I mean, we've always been friends, but he had a kid last year, and Wayne texts me all the time with pictures of him and his baby, and like they did a show here in the Bay Area about a year and a half ago for Google. It was a private show, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, I'm in town. We're doing this private gig at Google. Do you want to come down?" And I'm like, "Absolutely," and so these artists that I started working with that were so far alternative 30 years ago and are so mainstream now, and I feel like I've got this document. I did a book on the Flaming Lips, and it's a phenomenal book, and there's no copies left of it. It's I've seen them on eBay for $800. I've got 5 of them on my shelf. If you know anybody who wants any, make me a deal, make me an offer.
What's the title again?
So in order, in Primus, I did a book on Primus. Same thing. I mean, I have these archives. I started working with Primus in 1989. Same thing. Been working with Les for 30 years. I shot his most recent record that he did with Sean Lennon, the Claypool Lennon Delirium. I shot the photos for inside the record and all the publicity stuff and magazine covers and stuff like that. And so, you have these ongoing relationships. And so for me as a photographer, I know there's a lot of photographers like, oh, I shot that band 6 months ago. I don't need to shoot them again. I want to shoot these bands over and over and over and over again. So for me, it's not just the Grateful Dead that I've got this long-term archive of, right? And yes, I've been shooting the Grateful Dead since 1978, right? And I've got this continuum that still goes. And in my opinion, my Grateful Dead archive does not end until I take my last photograph of Bob, Mickey, Bill, and Phil, right?
No, the music
when
never
there's
stops.
no more photographs to take of those people, that's when the Grateful Dead archive ends. But, like I said, Primus, 30-something years. Flaming Lips, 30-something years. Michael Franti, over 30 years I've been working with Michael. Oh yeah, we're really good friends. I mean, I started shooting Michael. I shot him for the first time also, I think it was 89 as well. He had a band called the Beatniks. And then he put a band called the Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy. I shot the back cover for that. That was probably in 92 or 3. And then there's, newer artists like Jackie Green, who I'm already, 10, 12 years into working with him regularly. And the Mother Hips, Bay Area band. I don't know if you know the Mother Hips, right?
Yeah, we've talked to Tim.
Yeah, so they're good. I shot an album cover for them in 94, right? So and I think 93 is the first time I shot it. So I've been working with the Mother Hips for 27 years, and I still work with them on a regular basis. Shot the last Mother Hips record that came out. I shot the cover of it, right? So there's so many different artists that I not even remember. I mean, Neil Young, Carlos Santana. I first shot Carlos Santana in the late 80s also. 88, I shot the back cover of Supernatural. I shot the front cover of the record after that, which is the name of the record is escaping me right now. So I've been working with Carlos for over 30 years. I'm reading his autobiography right now. It's just so fascinating. Neil Young, I've been shooting for 30 years on a regular, consistent basis. So there's all these different artists that I have these bodies of work that's not just like, oh yeah, I shot him in, 90 and then 97, like Clapton, for instance. I've shot Clapton 3 times. I shot him in 88, 98, and 2008, and that's it,
Right.
It's like one of those weird things. And so I don't consider my body of work of Clapton a body of work. I shot this guy 3 times. I would have loved to have done a body of work. Same thing with the Rolling Stones. I shot the Rolling Stones, 6, 8, 10 times or something like that. I still don't think of it as a defining body of work, but I feel like it's a solid body of work over this, late 1980s until the, 2000s, section of work. But like the artists that I work with starting 30 plus years ago and still work with today, like, to me, that's important to continue to work with these people. Shoot them when they have hair, shoot them when they're bald, shoot them when they're skinny, shoot them when they're fat.
Timeline.
Across the board. Watch that timeline, watch them change, watch them become these, legendary performers.
Yeah, and too, it makes me think of a person that tapes shows. you don't go to a show and tape one show and go, well, I got that band, now I'm done. You know, that
Right.
you're going from show to show, you're taping all the shows, and it brings you back, like you said, when you listen to that bootleg from your first show, you're there. You know what I mean? When I listen to Fish from the Gorge from 2018, I'm there with Mel. You know what I mean? Dancing and having a moment that hangs on my wall right now. But those things are precious, and having that timeline to go back over for all of us, and not just for you, but for all of us, is monumental, because we get to see the progression of these people that have altered our reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. So I want to go back to something that you brought up. You talked a little bit about your son, and Mel and I we have a 25-year-old daughter and a almost 18-year-old son, and psychedelics have been a big part of my life and Mel's life, and we've been very honest and open as they got older, yeah, with them about that. And I'm wondering how you dealt with that in your life with your kids, Jay.
Both of my children are psychedelicized.
So you told them what was up.
My daughter actually took her first LSD trip at Fare Thee Well.
Oh wow!
And it was a kind of a funny experience because so she was warning us that she was going to do this with her two girlfriends that she went with, and I kept saying to her, "Are you sure that?" I kept saying, "I don't think it's a good idea. Like, I don't think you should do your first acid trip with 70,000 people." And her philosophy in her mind, I think, was, "Well, it's a great place to do my first acid trip because your parents are both there, and if something goes wrong, you can go find your parents."
Yeah.
Right? And so that was sort of her thinking a little bit. Right. But the best thing was that she got to the show and she was in my office. I had a little production office. And I guess she was looking for me or waiting for me to come back, and they decided that they had to drop some acid, right? So they had some blotter acid, and they had a big question, which was like, what do you do with that blotter acid? Do you chew it? Do you suck on it? Do you swallow it? And so they weren't exactly sure. So what do you think they did? They went on the internet and answered that question. So
You can't just come to Dad.
They were all sucking on some blotter, which is pretty funny.
That is funny.
And but yes, both of my children have had that experience many times, and they both are enjoy that experience
on the bus. Yeah, it's a trip for me to like see the lineage part of it get passed on as a dad through us as parents to our children. And I can only imagine, like, we joke about this all the time, Apple and I, Mel, like at the shows, I used to see these older cats with like long gray hair and a big beard, and I'd be like, that motherfucker's a wizard. Like, that dude's seen some shit, he's been to some shows. And then all of a sudden you're that guy, and
right.
You're looking in the mirror going, holy shit, that is now me.
I know, it's funny. We used to do the same thing. We'd be at shows and you'd see these old hippies and be like, oh my God, like that guy, he must have been at the Fillmore East.
Yeah. I saw the closing of
and now it's like, and now we are those elder statesmen and women.
Crazy.
We've taken over that mantle.
So when all this is said and done, what's going on right now in our crazy world, and things are normal for you, the way that you work, are you like on tour for a part of the year, or are you just doing one-off gigs as the year goes on?
Yeah, a little one-off gig kind of a guy. So with Dead & Co., like on a summer tour, I usually pick 5 or 6 shows that I'll do, sort of spread out throughout the tour. There's usually some big ones, like, there's the Giant Stadium one on Jerry's birthday.
Right.
There is, Boulder's the tour opener. So I usually pick stuff like that. Like Boulder's like a big weekend, Giant Stadium. There's a SPAC show, so those are the ones that I'm thinking about for this summer. And, we don't even know if it's going to happen.
Right.
We don't know if that's going to happen. And then obviously there's the festival world. And so, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different festivals that I'm sort of a regular at. You know, there's Mountain Jam that just canceled. There's Summer Camp Music Festival, which is in Chillicothe, Illinois, Memorial Day weekend, which just got moved to the end of August. There's Lock-In, which they have not made an official announcement about, so I'm not really sure what their plan is. I don't know if they're going to postpone, cancel, try and do it in June. I can't imagine it can happen in June, but that's just me speculating. I don't have any official word on what's going to happen with Lock-In. Peach Festival is 4th of July weekend. High Sierra Music Festival is 4th of July weekend. You know, I think this year I would probably be at Peach. We don't know if it's going to happen. We don't know if High Sierra is going to happen.
String
you know, so there's, you know, so those are all things that I sort of wrap my head around in my schedule in summer months. You know, like I also have a house in New York, a summer home. So I sort of can home base there a little bit. So, you know, I'll go to Peach Festival, then I'll go to the beach house for a week, and then I'll come back to San Francisco and do work and get organized, and you know, and then I'll, you know, go somewhere, you know. So I sort of bounce back and forth between the East Coast and the West Coast, because a lot of the festivals I do are on the East Coast, and sort of, you know, wrap it around. And then I usually take off a good solid 2.5 to 3 weeks in August, where I'm just actually at the summer home and, you know, chilling with family and whatnot. You know, both my kids live in New York City, so they come out on weekends. It's out on Fire Island. It's a Fire Island beach house. So, you know, we have some good, you know, summer beach hangs and whatnot. But this year, everything is up in the air. We don't really know what's going to happen at all in terms of, you know, music scheduling. I mean, I'm guessing that everything is going to get canceled easily through June, and most likely, in my opinion, but this is just, again, me speculating, through July. I'm hoping that they let us start to gather as people again in July. So maybe some live music will start kicking up in local clubs, and you know, the venues that don't need you know, 6 months lead time to book a tour or event, you know, an artist or whatever it is, can in theory start happening again. And if that happens, I think I'm going to try and book some tour dates for me. So I do little mini tours where I go and do a 90-minute slideshow storytelling presentation about my experience photographing rock and roll and the Grateful Dead over the last 40 years. And I do these in small clubs and small theaters and different stuff like that. I get anywhere from 150 to 400 people that come to these events. Exactly.
Sorry for that.
Anyway, so yeah, so I think I can book a tour pretty quickly. Of, you know, I'll usually do 3 or 4 over the course of 7 or 8 days. You know, so I'll probably try and book something like that to keep me busy, generate some money as well, because I'm not going to work in 3 months at that point.
Yeah.
So, you know, and part of my business these days is, you know, selling books and selling art, you know, photographs. So we sort of do a pop-up art gallery at every one of these events that we do, and I do my presentation, and, you know, hopefully people purchase books that I sign for them, and hopefully some people purchase artwork, and that's sort of how we, you know, pay for these experiences that I do, and hopefully make some money.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome, Jay.
I just did it before. Literally snuck one in the nick of time before this whole Corona madness began, and I did Norfolk, Virginia, Asheville, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and Miami Beach, Florida. So I did 4 dates right at the end of February. And then I flew home, and then I flew back to New York, and I was supposed to do the Allman Brothers 50th at the Garden, which I did do. And then 2 nights later was this benefit called Love Rocks. I don't know if you've heard, but that was the one that Jackson Browne was at, where he got, thinks that maybe he got coronavirus. Also Larry Campbell from, you know, Phil's band. Right. He was there. Larry got very sick also right after Love Rocks. So I was also at Love Rocks. So the Allman Brothers at the Garden went off as planned. There was a fair amount of empty seats because people just were starting to, like, question going out, right? But it was really the last big, large gathering that we know of in New York, and maybe even in music. And so I did that on March 10th. And then on the 12th was the Love Rocks thing, and that was at the Beacon Theater. And it was sold out, and they did it without an audience. So they still put the show on, and they streamed it live on their Relics channel. But there was 200 people in the audience. So friends and family of the artists as guests were the only ones that were there. But otherwise, the Beacon Theater was empty. And that was like Jackson Browne and Joss Stone and Mark Cohn and Warren Haynes, and I can't remember who else was there off the top of my head, but it was Cyndi Lauper. Fabulous evening of music. And then the next night was supposed to be the first night of Phil and Friends at the Capitol Theater in Portchester for Phil's 80th birthday. And so that got canceled. And that got canceled, I think, on the Wednesday, the day after the Allman Brothers. So I knew that was canceled, but I was sticking it out for the Love Rocks thing, and they said that the show was going to go on without the audience. So I stuck around for that and switched my flight, and then I flew home back to San Francisco with my kids on Friday the 13th.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and then that, yeah, exactly. And then
Hair
that
up your
was the
chinny
last,
chin chin, huh?
Right, and that was exactly. That was the last hurrah for me, live music-wise, and since then I've just been basically self quarantining and waiting for that 14-day period to go through from when I was on that plane, which would be yesterday, was the 14th day when we all flew back. So knock on wood, you don't get anything going to a grocery store, or it's really about the only errand I run. I've been going to the post office once a week to get my mail at my P.O. box and drop off some books that people have been ordering. But other than that, not really going out anywhere.
Yeah, I feel you. I have a day job, and I'm working from home, and Mel works in the grocery business, and she's still out working. Apple works in the cannabis business, and he's out still working.
Yeah, we're considered essential here in Oregon.
Yeah, I know you're. Yeah. I have some friends here in the Bay Area that are essential cannabis. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got to go out and make some money at some point, and it's not going to happen in the festival world for 6 months until the fall, and so that's why I'm thinking I can hopefully pivot quickly if they, loosen restrictions and people feel better. I'm not going to do it unless people are, feel comfortable wanting to go out and be in groups. But if they do, I'm going to try and book a tour. I don't know where I'm going to do it. It'll be somewhere on the East Coast, but I don't know where it's going to be.
I'd love to see that sometime, Jay. It sounds so interesting. Do you
people like it. Do
you pick a band, or is it like career wide? Like, how do you?
It's a career wide thing. So it starts. The good thing is that I'm able to tell a good story, as well as show the photographs, right? I've got the photographs to prove it. And so it starts when I'm a teenager. I talk about growing up in suburban New Jersey and a lot of things that we talked about in this podcast, and talk about early experiences and trying to figure out our place in the script, basically just, starts there. And I talk about how I met this acid dealer at a Dead show in 1980 and how he, asked me if I wanted to be part of his underground LSD distribution network. And I told him I thought that was a brilliant idea. And I gave my parents' address in New Jersey, and he started FedExing me thousands of hits of LSD from San Francisco to New Jersey. And I was selling it to my friends in high school and flying around the country seeing the Grateful Dead, and he was being watched by the San Francisco police, who ultimately notified the authorities in New Jersey, who started watching me. And I went down to FedEx in Edison, New Jersey on April 11th, 1981. And I walked out of FedEx with an envelope, and these people rushed up to me and grabbed me and threw me against the car and said, "You're under arrest, motherfucker."
Shit. And your asshole.
And that was the beginning of that adventure. And I talk a little bit about that in my slideshow. And then from there, I get out of jail and finish school and move to the Bay Area and try and figure out how to make a living and talk about shooting bands like the Chili Peppers and Butthole Surfers and, getting my first opportunities to do portraits of Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir, and my first assignment for Rolling Stone magazine in the late 80s, and photographing U2, and then just talk about different things, photographing the making of the Rolling Stones video and the making of the Touch of Grey video, and I've got photographs from all this. So I just sort of go through all this and New Year's, and then leading up to Fare Thee Well, and talk about being that guy, being chosen to do the Fare Thee Well thing, and I added a new story in this last couple months. I think starting in January, I started telling the story about how I got John Mayer to be able to play the Wolf guitar at the City Field last summer. So I tell that whole story.
Yeah.
And, all in photographs, and so that's the arc of the slideshow. It's it's about a 90-minute slideshow, and I always feel like, oh my God, this is going on and on forever, and everybody's like, please don't stop, more, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's cool, you guys like this. I'm like, I'm always just like, oh my God, my daughter's in there watching me do it. She's like, okay, enough already. I've heard this story.
I gotta ask, man, like growing up, following the band around, and then having the experiences that you and I have had, having the experience to take portraits of Garcia. Was that just out? Were you out of your body with the surreality of it?
No, because I had to act professional. You couldn't be a fawning deadhead, like that wasn't cool. Right. I mean, the last thing that they wanted around then were people who were just like, oh my God, you're Jerry Garcia. And so I had to play it cool. My very first portrait I did of Jerry, like official portrait, for a magazine story, was up at the Grateful Dead office in 91. And I was expecting to go up there and spend 20, 30 minutes with Garcia, so my job always is to come back and with the best photograph that I can possibly create, like the art directors and the photo editors, you have to be brilliant. And if you're not, then you're not going to get hired again. Right. And we're not brilliant every time. Sometimes we're okay. And sometimes we're great. And sometimes we come away with something that's brilliant. Right. It doesn't happen all the time. But that's the goal, right? The goal is to be brilliant, because why would somebody hire you again and again and again if you don't come back with the goods? Right. And so I was expecting to go there, and I had a plan, and I was going to shoot, 35 millimeter film, and then medium format, which is like a square format Hasselblad camera that I had, black and white, color, wide lens, close-up lens, this shot, that shot, and literally I got there and took 10 pictures, and they said, okay, you're done. And I was like freaked out, and I stepped on the motor drive really fast and shot, 2.5 rolls of film in about 3 minutes, and the whole shoot was over in 3 minutes. But that's the photo shoot where I got my most iconic photo of Jerry, the one where he's looking over the glasses, close up of his face.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's the cover. That's the shoot where I got the cover of my new Jerry Garcia book, the Secret Space of Dreams book that just came out in October. And so, that was my first experience with Garcia. And basically what I've learned from working with Jerry and Weir and Neil Young and Carlos Santana, and basically anybody that's been doing this for 50 years now or longer, is that they are over the photo shoot experience. They've been over it for decades, right? They just want to go and have a turkey sandwich. They want to go have lunch or salad. They don't want to sit around for a photograph. But again, my job is to come back with something interesting and engaging that the person who hired you can put in their magazine or on their magazine cover or whatever it might be, right? And so, you're trying to be creative, and they just want to get out of there because they've done this 5,000 times. It's funny, Weir has about a year ago, I was backstage at Sweetwater, and there were some other photographers, and Bobby said something to a different photographer, not to me. And he said, when they asked if they get a picture, he said, don't you have enough photographs of me already?
Oh.
Right? Which is a really interesting thing. So, I didn't respond to it because it wasn't directed to me. But I heard it, and I was right there, and I thought about it. And you know what my answer to Bobby is? And I actually do want to say this to him at some point, is that, Bob, every time you get up on stage and you sing Me and My Uncle, you want it to be the best Me and My Uncle that you've ever done. Or Sugar Mag, you've done Sugar Mag 3,000 times, 2,000 times, whatever it is on stage. Grateful Dead, Rat Dog, Bob Weir, whatever the band is. You've done this a gazillion times. Mm-hmm. But every time you do it, you still want it to be the best Sugar Mag, right? Mm-hmm. So when I take a picture of you, I'm still trying to get the best picture I can take of you, right?
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing.
It is the same thing. You're so right. I mean, because every time changes, just like for those people to say, haven't you already seen The Dead? Well, yeah, I have.
Exactly.
But
not... remember that? Remember when our parents would say that? Haven't you seen them enough? Haven't you gone to enough concerts?
No. I saw them last week. I'm ready again.
Well, thanks for being persistent, Jay. That is clearly what has gotten you here.
And passion.
Yeah, that passion and that persistence there is a great picture there that I've taken, but I'm ready to take my other great picture. And that right there, that says everything.
Well, and you know what too, Jay, I got to say thanks, man, because you and a select others have really inspired me personally, just to go after my dream and to believe that I can do it. Yeah, man, for real. That's a real thing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's what it's all about. It's just a big circle and everybody trying to push everybody further to do better, and and again, like I said, to get away from like that world of mediocrity, because that's the worst place that we want to be.
Right on.
Yeah. We don't want people thinking, oh, it's just enough. It's okay. It's okay. It's an okay thing. It's an okay photograph. It's an okay drawing. It's an okay film. No, like we want to be fucking brilliant.
Awesome.
And again, you can't always be brilliant, but you've got to try.
Yeah. What did Ryan Stasek from Humphreys McGee? We talked to him yesterday, and on the wall, persistence, not perfection. Yeah. Keep at it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
He said he had a thing on the wall behind him, and it says persistence, not perfection. And it's, just keep going. Just keep going. Keep your passion lit and keep going after it, man.
Well, that's why a lot of people don't succeed as music photographers, because they give up, because it's not easy. It's easy to make money, right? But it's not easy to make a living. And, and now with technology, it's different. And a lot of the younger photographer kids are also doing video, and there's a place for that. Content is king. Content will always be king, right? And I've been doing content forever, but, I do it in a different way than a lot of the younger kids do. And there's so many brilliant kids out there doing it, but there's a lot of people that can't figure out how to actually make a living doing it, right? They haven't figured that part out. They can make a little bit of money here and there, but and other than that, they're struggling, and nobody should have to struggle. We all have, when you're working with an artist who's living in a mansion and has 19 cars, and they're saying, well, I can give you $250, to take these pictures of me. I'll give you $200 a night if you come out for 40 days with me, and it's like, what do you mean? Like, you spend that on bottled water every day, right? Like, that's all I'm worth to you. And then that person goes back and they can barely afford to live in their house, and they can't afford to, buy a house or buy a new car or have a mortgage or, buy a new computer or anything. It's a bizarre world. And so you've got to figure out how to navigate that and figure out where your place in the script is, and how you can actually turn it into a reality where that is your life and that is your living.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Well put.
And to know your worth. I heard you talking about something where another interview I was listening to yesterday where you were saying, if you start out as that, the cheap guy, the $100 guy, you're going to be stuck there forever. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a question too. One last question. Another thing I love, because this is different than all your other photography, I know a lot of other people out there love the hippie chicks. Was that taken? Or were those just photos you happen to like from over time, or was that a project that you set out to do and then started taking those specifically?
Right. So that book that you're talking about, it's a book project. It was a coffee table book that came out 5 years ago. It's called Hippie Chick: A Tale of Love, Devotion, and Surrender. And so what happened with that is that in 2008, I joined Facebook, the evil Facebook, and I joined it because I was putting out a book of a career retrospective book, 1978-2008, called Traveling on a High Frequency, and I heard about this new thing called Facebook, and it might be a good way to like let people know about my book and to sell my book and so on and so forth. And I started posting a bunch of pictures of deadheads, and it was starting to really resonate and connect with a lot of people that were joining Facebook. The Huffington Post picked it up and wrote a story about how these photos were reconnecting deadheads who hadn't talked to each other since Jerry Garcia died in 1995. And so people started saying, oh, you should do a book of deadheads. You should do a book of deadheads. And my photos of deadheads, they're wide and varied. But ultimately, when you look at that body of work, it's a lot of the same people. Because I wasn't out there shooting deadheads like thinking, oh, I'm going to be this great photojournalist documenting the scene. I was just photographing my friends. These are the people that we were touring with. These are the people that we were sleeping with, that we were eating dinner with, that we were living with, traveling with. These are just my friends, right? And, back then, a lot of times when people saw me with a camera, they were like, oh, my God, he must be a narc. Right? He's got a camera. And if they didn't think I was a narc, a lot of people were hiding from my camera And this is all stuff that people say to me on Facebook and Instagram all the time. Like, oh yeah, I remember you on tour, and I remember I used to run away from you when you had your camera because, you know, I was fucking doing dope, I was smoking dope, I was shooting heroin, I was fucking around with women that I shouldn't have been fucking around with, or guys I shouldn't have been fucking, you know, everybody.
Here you are with
like,
the camera.
Like even Steve Parrish said to me, he goes, man, I wish that we had allowed you guys backstage in the 70s to take photos. He goes, but you know what? We could have never, because there was so much shit going on backstage that nobody should have ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it was the same thing in the audience, right? So I was photographing the people that knew who I was and were letting me photograph them because they didn't care, because they knew that I was Jay Blakesberg and that I was not a fucking narc.
Just
and I
a
was
dude
not
taking pictures.
Just taking pictures and documenting the scene. And, you know, now 30 years later, you go on Facebook and people are like, oh my God, I can't believe I never let you take pictures of me, or oh my God, someday I'm going to find a picture of me in the background, or, you know, why don't you have pictures of me at this show or that show? And I'm just like, you know what? I was taking pictures of my friends.
Yeah.
So getting back to Hippie Chick, right? So I have this body of work, and it would be a cool book, and it probably could have worked, but I'm like, you know what? This needs to be bigger, right? It needs to be bigger than just deadheads. And so I started looking through, and because I always shot fans, and I always loved to shoot fans, and I always loved to shoot beautiful women at shows because I'm a hippie dude and I like hippie girls. I was always photographing those people. I started thinking this could be an interesting project. And so I met this woman named Edith Johnson. And Edith, I met her at Locken. Actually didn't meet her at Locken. I took a picture of her at Locken. She saw it, and she emailed me or messaged me and said, hey, I do a blog called The Festival Girl. Can I use this photo on my blog? And I'm like, yeah, of course, totally cool, you know. And we became friendly and started talking. And I was like, you know, I have this idea that I want to talk to you about. I want to do a book called Hippie Chick, right? I've been kicking this idea around for a few years at this point. Right, so this is probably 2014, maybe, I'm going to say, something like that. And so, you know, at this point, it's already 5 or 6 years that people are like, when are you going to do a book of deadheads, you know? And so I started thinking about this, and I started looking through photos, and I met with her in a little breakfast joint in Brooklyn that she happened to be visiting New York, and I was in New York, and we talked about this book, and I hired her on the spot to, like, write the text for this book. And she just turned out to be the most brilliant, incredible human being ever on the planet. Like, just if you, and I'll send you guys a copy of this book if you don't have one. Just, you know, give me your address later. Cool. I mean, she wrote 3 essays. So the book is called Hippie Chick: A Tale of Love, Devotion, and Surrender. So Love, Devotion, and Surrender is obviously this record, you know, Mahavishnu Orchestra, John McLaughlin. But there was an article that Blair Jackson, the Grateful Dead historian, wrote for BAM magazine 35 years ago, called The Grateful Dead: A Tale of Love, Devotion, and Surrender. So that was, in my mind, that's where that came from, right? Because it's the same thing. So she wrote 3 essays for the book. She wrote an essay called Love, an essay called Devotion, and an essay called Surrender. Okay. Love is about how you fall in love with a band, a lyric, a song, a community. Devotion is about how you're devoted to that band, how you go see them multiple times on the same tour, how you wait online all day to be on the rail, how you collect their memorabilia or set lists, buy their songs, buy their records, buy the poster, right? And then surrender is going to the show and surrendering to the moment and being in the moment and forgetting about the husband and the kids and the carpool and the mortgage and the car payment or the rent or the job, and putting the phone away and being in the moment and surrendering to that moment to sort of recharge your batteries, recharge your soul, right? Right. So that's the basic of what that book is all about. It's about women and their connection. And so, sure, could I have put some dudes in the book? Yeah, but from a visual standpoint and maybe a marketing standpoint, in my opinion, it worked better as a hippie chick book because of the direction I wanted the text to go in also. Right. And so once we said, yes, we're doing this, and I started really going through like tens of thousands of photographs, because I'd have to look at every show that I shot of Railroad Earth and String Cheese and Fish and this band and the Grateful Dead and look and see what I had of people in the audience or at a music festival. So there was I probably went through, 100,000 photographs to find the 300 or 400 that are in the book. Okay. Right?
That 10%.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And what happened was that I'm like, okay, this is here, but you know what? I still need more photographs. And so for the last year, I probably went to. I probably went to like High Sierra Music Festival, Gathering of the Vibes, Summer Camp Music Festival, at least those three, specifically in my mind, looking for photos that I needed to sort of help finish the book, complete the book, really fill it out with what I needed. And so that was, yes. So did I shoot some stuff for the book? Yes, I definitely did.
So it's a good mix.
But did I have most of it already? I did.
Yeah. That man, having those photographs and going through 100,000 of them, I mean, whew, that's huge. And that, putting together a compendium like over a span of time like that, it makes sense why coffee table books cost what they cost and look the way they look. It totally makes sense because it's like an anthology. It's the
satisfaction. The satisfaction of buying one of those books like that. I mean, it's something. It's beautiful. It's a history book.
Right. So a couple things. So we live in a fleeting moment where we consume most of our images on the internet and our phones and on the computer and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. And again, it comes back to this thing where 90% of this is mediocrity, right? So it's really uninspiring. And it's really a not such an interesting way to consume really good content, right? It's fleeting. It's not in the moment. So, and it'll be interesting to see if like the kids that are, let's say 25 years old now that are following Pigeons Playing Ping Pong or Twiddle or Goose or any of these new bands are going to be interested in holding books in their hands in 20 years of these artists, right? But, people like us, we're in our 40s and our 50s and we grew up with books and we still like that experience of holding that tactile, tangible item in our hands and slowly flipping through the pages and reading text off the printed page as opposed to off a computer screen and looking at that photo and the printing technology today is so incredible that these photographs really can be reproduced really, really beautifully.
Yeah.
Right. And so I self-publish all my own books as well. So, here's the plug for my website. www.rockoutbooks.com is where you can go and find all of my books that are still in print. I did a book called Jam 5, 6, 7 years ago that's out of print. There's my first Grateful Dead book is basically out of print. There's a handful of limited edition copies left of it, things like that. But in general, so after I did my first book on the Grateful Dead in 2002, and that book is called Between the Dark and Light, The Grateful Dead Photography of Jay Blakesberg, I got bit by the book-making bug. And so I formed my own publishing company. And then I did a book on Primus, and then I did a book on Flaming Lips, and then I waited a while, and then I did that 2008 book, Traveling on High Frequency. And I did I did that book on my own, and it did well. I printed like 2,500 copies, and it's completely sold out.
Wow.
It took a long time to sell it out completely, but I did sell it out. And then when I wanted to do my Jam book, I started talking to publishers because, you need $60,000, $70,000 on top of the year of your time to put into this to make your own book, right? It's not like you're making it, literally it takes a full year to make a book from the minute you start thinking about it and pulling photos and thinking about what kind of text you want for it and designing it and printing it and getting it shipped to you and everything else. It's a full year, if not more.
Okay.
Right. And so I started pitching my Jam book to all these different publishers, and everybody was turning me down. They were saying, if you want to do a book on just Dave Matthews, we'll do it, or just a single band, we'll do it, because you have to reach that single audience. And I'm like, you don't understand. The Jam band community is a single audience.
Yeah.
Okay. And they didn't believe me. So I went out and did a Kickstarter, raised $30,000 in 30 days, which was enough to get it going. I still put in $65,000 or $70,000 to make the book, and I sold it out. 5,000 copies sold out completely.
Yeah.
And then I had all these publishers say, okay, you were right, we were wrong. And one of those publishers was here in the Bay Area, big coffee table book publisher. And they came back to me and said, we want to do a book with you now because you were right. And we see what you were doing, and you had mentioned us this idea for a guitar book, and we want to do that with you. And so I said, okay, let me do a book with a publisher, because now that I've figured out the groove of being a businessman as a book publisher and how to market and sell books, let me see if a book publisher can actually do better than me and
Right.
sell more books, that someone has worldwide distribution and reach into all these stores and in-house marketing and PR and blah, blah, blah. And so I did this book called Guitars That Jam.
Okay.
And you want to know what?
What happened?
It did just a little bit better than Jam, a couple thousand copies better than Jam. Right?
So you could have done it yourself.
And I made a fraction of the money because when you're an author with a publishing company, you get about a 10% royalty. So on a $35 book that sells for $17.50, right? Or I'm sorry, it's a $35 book, $17.50 minus the 25% distribution fee. My royalty rate on that book was about $1.20.
Oh shit!
And you did all the work.
So and you want to know who did all the PR and marketing? Me.
You.
Okay. Everything that happened with that book, I had to do. So here he goes. This book publisher is making the lion's share of the money. I'm making $1.20 a book, and I sold 6,500 or 7,000 books with them. Okay, so I made $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. Over an 18-month period. I mean, it's like I can go to the Dharma Burger vegetarian vegan fast food restaurant and make more money as a server.
That's true.
Than I can like being a book publisher. So I did that because I wanted to see what the difference would be. Like they were like, oh, we can sell 25,000 copies of this. No, you can't. That's not what the book business is about these days. Right. So I went back, and since then, I self-published my book. I self-published my Fare Thee Well book. That's maybe my best-selling book. I've done almost 12,000 copies of Fare Thee Well. Wow. Hippie Chick, I did 5,000 copies of. I think there's about 500 left, 600 left. Not that many. Jam, we did 5,000 copies done. My Jerry Garcia book, we did 9,000 copies. I've got about 2,200 left, but that's a good number to have because I'll keep selling those through when I do my speaking engagements and, public appearances and stuff like that. So, I like selling books. I like making books. I like the process of making it. I like the experience of holding it. And it's part of how I make my living now. And as long as people are willing to support that, I will continue to do it.
Right on, man. Jay, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for giving us your time, man.
And talent.
Yeah, and your passion, and it's a beautiful thing to behold, brother. And I am
my pleasure.
I want to extend an offer to you when you're up in the Pacific Northwest, when all this is over and said and done, and we're all having fun again. I'd like to break bread with you. Hang on to my number, and we'll cook you dinner when you're.
That'd be great for sure. Do you guys do the country fair?
We've only been up here 4 years, and every year it's run up against something else, and we're gonna soon.
At some point.
Well, who knows if it'll happen this year, of course, or if it'll delayed or whatever. But yeah, I mean, when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, back in the day, we used to go every year, and then I didn't go. I think I went in '89, and then I didn't go for almost 30 years, and then I went back a couple of years ago, and then skipped a year, and then I went last year. I actually brought my daughter. Last year was, I'm pretty sure it was just this last year.
It was 50th,
But it was the year that Phil played.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And, listen, I've been around a lot of Phil and Friends shows, and, before every show, before they go out and play every show, always, whether it's a Terrapin or on a big stage, wherever it is, the band huddles before the show, and they go through the set list, and they just kind of give each other some cues. Oh, yeah, when we come out of Uncle John's band, you're going to do this before we go into that. They just sort of like run through it a little bit in their head, just to kind of straighten it out.
Right.
And for the country fair, I think that when they did their huddle, they got backstage together, and I think Phil said something like, let's do a Telstar, which is sort of like this, electronic spacey thing that they do every once in a while at Terrapin every few years, and go into Dark Star, and let's just see what happens. Right. Because everybody, and not everybody, but most of the people in the band had dosed, including Phil. Okay. And so they came out and played like a 45-minute Telstar Dark Star Jam to open up the 50th anniversary of the Oregon Country Fair, and everybody was just blown away. And it was like, and I was dosed, and everybody was just like, it was like when they walked off the stage, we were like, that was the most incredible thing that we've ever seen.
Okay, I gotta find the recording.
Imagine, yeah, like Phil got there, and somebody asked him if he wanted to dose, and he was like, already did.
Oh shit. Okay, that answers a lot of questions, man. That you just I'm good.
Yeah, you know, it was incredible, right? You know, it was incredible. And so, you know, I mean, go find the tape. It literally, you know, 7,000 or 8,000 people at the Oregon Country Fair just with their jaws, you know, just on the ground, because it was just such an incredible thing. And when they walked off the stage, even they were just like, "Oh, holy fuck, man! Like, what just happened?" You know,
puddled on the ground, just rolling.
Exactly. Yeah. So you know, the love and the magic is still out there, and you know, you know, I think that people still indulge here and there. I mean, you know, and I occasionally do myself. I'm not a regular psychedelic guy, just because, you know, at 58 years old, it takes me like a week to recover.
Yep.
But you know, every once in a while, in the right place at the right time with the right person, you know, somebody hands you something, you just go for it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a good recharge. It's a history lesson. It's a future. It's always there.
Blow out the cobwebs and see it all for what it's worth.
That's right, man. Right on, Jay. Thank you, man.
And yeah, and I was just going to say, you know, even for somebody like me who, you know, went to prison for LSD, like, it still is probably the single most important thing that happened to me in my life was taking and discovering psychedelics.
I have to agree with you. Me too. And meeting Mel and taking acid were the two things that altered my reality completely. So I'm with you 100%.
I look forward to that time when we get to break some bread and hang out and you know.
And enjoy your family, man. That is cool that you got your kids back there. Where you guys are together as a family, man. Enjoy your family.
Yeah.
All
right, be safe out there, Jay. We'll see you when,
you guys
when this
be
is
safe
up.
too, and hope everybody's families stay safe. And let's get through this and get out and have some more fun sometime soon.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Take care, Jay.
Bye.
Cheers.
Jay Blakesberg, everybody.
Cheers. I like when
I do
somebody
too. Cheers is cool.
Cheers.
I like Jay.
Like your mom says so long. Like there's different little...
Goodbyes are never...
Yeah, I know.
Goodbye
okay, so check this out. This has nothing to do with Jake and Bryn. No, Jay Blakesberg. This has nothing to do with him. But so I heard a podcast with this lady that she was talking about the English language and how the English language has been co-opted by nefarious creeps to destroy blah 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 blah. But think about this for a minute.
What kind of podcast is that? Blah blah blah.
when we see each other in the morning, right? And the first thing in the day, we're saying good morning.
Yeah.
Morning doesn't mean just when the sun came up. Morning means sadness and
MOUR.
Yeah, but it's the word sounds the same.
Yeah.
So your brain,
good morning.
Your brain releases chemicals when you hear words, and it has that same effect on you. So
is that why I start crying every
that is.
Somebody says good morning.
So I've tried to start saying good day instead of good morning.
Day,
How about good?
I said good day.
Sir. Anyway, that was fucking awesome.
I know.
I
know. How is it that whole group, that little era of guys, so unique, so passionate, and so different, but the same? Like it's that same type
talking like Big Steve.
Yes, Dennis McNally,
David
exactly.
Gans.
Yeah,
these guys. Yeah, they're like brothers.
Yeah,
I mean,
like if you separated all of them and listen to their stories, you wouldn't be able to tell which ones belong to each story. You know what I mean?
Getting all them and having them all over here.
Oh my god!
For one day on the week, all of those guys in the room at the same time.
Grateful Dead Family Summit.
I would never have to say one word because they
just be sitting
go
around
on,
hearing these stories and just that's
it's this tapestry of like history of American music and counterculture and psychedelics and like this whole
counterculture part
thing that's just fucking rad.
That's the part that really is exciting, is that it was all about the counterculture. And now as an adult, something that I was like interested in as a teenager and reading like Woodstock and not able to participate in it, but like now people are talking about it openly.
And you're in it.
And I'm in it.
Yeah. No, it's like he was talking in the beginning too, where we were talking about that because we kind of had with parents like growing up. It's like you can't trust friends. They didn't have friends.
No.
They didn't have a lot of friends. Like he was saying that, the 70s, you knew what you didn't want to be. You didn't. A whole lot of people didn't know what they wanted, but you knew you didn't want to be that thing where it's like you can't trust people, you can't trust friends.
Yeah. Business.
Both of our dads said that for a long time, but they finally gave up about after 20-something years. Like, okay, that's a good friend.
Well, my mom was the same way. She was like, "You're not allowed to have friends. I don't need no friends."
Yeah, your mom. I don't need nobody up here.
I don't need
nobody that's trying to talk to me and be friendly.
And that was the thing for us growing up was like, our parents were absent most of the time, or not just absent, but just not paying attention. And so our friends became our family. And
it was, the ones we confided in, shared all our everything with.
I saw this meme about the coronavirus and like Gen Xers, like the only ones that are fine during coronavirus is Gen Xers because they were left at home after school to cook for themselves and have to be creative with no parents and have to, like they couldn't,
We're also the whatever generation. We are the kings and queens of like, whatever.
Yeah, well,
whatever. Yeah,
I do
whatever
remember that coming home and you're not coming home to a mom. I wasn't coming home to a mom a lot of the time. So what do? You call your friends.
Yep.
And do you want to come to my house? My mom's not here, or I'll go to your house. My mom's not here. So like that generation, our generation, really did have that a lot, where we didn't have the cushy mom, dad. I mean, not everybody has that.
But we're talking about we're painting with a broad brush.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a lot of the people that were pulled to that community. I mean, because if you had mom and dad, they come home, make you PB&J with the crust cut off. Yeah, they're not going. They're not seeking out, a family out on the road and the Grateful Dead. They're probably
they're making one.
They learned. Yeah, they learned to be kind of scared of that counterculture. Like, ugh.
I can remember
missed out.
Hearing the name Acid Rock for the first time. It's like etched in my memory, and I wrote it. I had a Peachy folder. I was in like 4th or 5th grade, and I wrote Acid Rock.
Not even knowing what it meant.
I didn't even know what it was.
Just sounded cool.
It sounded so fucking cool to me at the time, and I remember I think I wrote Deep Purple or some shit on there. I had never even heard it, and then going and listening to what my older uncle and my sister told me was acid rock. It felt like home. As a kid, I remember that, like feeling like, wow, this is like magical. And I still feel like that. And I'm glad there's guys like Jay around that have taken pictures for all these years so that I can have a memory of what happened, because a lot of it's gone.
Yeah.
That's another thing. How the heck do people remember these
dates?
Intricate stories and dates and specific festivals and whoa.
Think about if somebody asked you about going to Summer Meltdown last year. You could tell them a story about it.
I could tell them a story, but in like 3 years, I wouldn't be able to be like, oh yeah, in 2019, summer of 20. I don't remember.
It'd be like August, July. We do that a month after. So that was March.
Well,
July.
It's just incredible to me how
those people, those stories, that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's
like
Grateful Dead is significant for that.
Yeah, man, and it's such a part of the culture that we're in right now, and the way things have shaken out, and it's so important to have that visual record, because like you said, not a lot of us have great memories, and it's awesome to have it.
Sometimes you don't know to remember something
either.
Like, okay, we're going to 5 concerts. I don't know to remember the 3rd concert at on that Wednesday night that blew the roof off.
Because there's still 2 more left. Exactly. That's the middle one. And you don't know until you've been given the whole serving.
Exactly.
And it's like, fuck,
so like this 20, 40, 50-year career, how did you know that in year 7 that was going to be your, you know what I mean? To remember that and to stick that story out.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It is pretty amazing.
When I have faith, I just gotta say too there at the end, I have faith in books, because that like the resurgence and the vinyl, seeing the vinyl and young
was literally
kids
almost dead,
wanting vinyl. Oh yeah, vinyl was almost
pretty
gone.
much gone.
It was like a joke. Like, why would you get
go to the used store and get a quarter for an album if you sold your albums, and buy them for $1? And now there's so many collector ones, and everybody's pressing new ones. I just love I bought quite a few lately. The pigeons with the
so
blue,
badass.
the blue and white
Frasco
swirl
awesome
Frascos.
Mm-hmm.
All these guys are putting out really cool
Good
shit.
stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, right now while the quarantine is still happening, the artists that are out there, they need your help, guys.
Yeah, hit up Jay's website.
Go to Jay's website. Go to your favorite band's website. Buy some merch. I didn't tell you, but here in town, Mississippi Studios and Revolution Hall are part of the same group, and they're struggling. So I bought us a couple of T-shirts from them just to help them out. Just do what you can. And remember that No Simple Road is an artist as well, and we need your assistance too to keep going. So, patreon.com/No Simple Road. And everybody, we'll talk about this in Heads Talking, but it's been a weird week again, and things are only going to get stranger. So let's get on with the show. No, things are getting stranger. And
let's get on with the show.
It's been weird and hard for me this week. So I appreciate all of you guys out there that have participated with us in the live streams that we've done, the artist check-ins, the vibe checks. You guys doing stuff with Mel and her meditation stuff and Apple
and story time and movie review.
It's keeping me grounded right now, and I just appreciate
it has
you
helped.
guys.
I can see that it's helped Aaron a lot.
Well, it's awesome too.
It's helped me too.
When you kind of think, it's like, well, I don't know if nobody wants to hear this, and then you see that people want to hear that. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, that is definitely my problem. Like, why would anybody care about what I'm thinking about? And it's not in a self-deprecating way. It's just like, why? Or like, who cares?
I don't care sometimes.
It's not like
own,
It's not about needing the affirmation. It's just like the surprise. Like, what?
Holy shit.
Okay. I guess I will say something.
I guess for me, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just the doing of it and knowing that
you're
we're
a doer,
providing something for somebody to distract them the way that I need to be distracted, and it's also doing the same thing for me.
Oh yeah,
so
there's so many
for me.
people doing funny things, serious things, funny things, music, art things. There's so much creativity going on right now because of this.
Yeah,
people start to get their, I can't do this thing. The next thing you know, they're creating something amazing that everybody's like, where the fuck that come from?
Shout out to Crystal doing that soul collage thing, the soul collage pajama party. Andy Frasco's doing some cameo thing. I don't know what that is, but he's doing a variety show, which is a weird thing. I just have to tell you guys, and now everybody out there, like a week after we met Andy Frasco here and he spent the night and all that stuff, I had this weird daytime vision because I wasn't sleeping that remember those shows like Star Search and Solid Gold and all that type of show.
Hey listeners, I want to tell you about the April-May 2023 issue of Relics magazine. Features a Dave Matthews Band cover story with additional articles and interviews with The National, Graham Nash, Wayne Shorter, ALO, Ivan Neville, our friend Eric Krasno and Stanton Moore, Marty Stewart, and much more. Check out the latest version of Relics and subscribe now at relics.com/DMB. Thanks, Relics.
It reminded me of Andy Frasco. It reminded me of something he would do.
Now he's doing it.
Yeah. So
you
I
like that
saw
video
the
he
future.
put together.
I see that in him. He's so much more than just music.
That's a whirlwind of creativity.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how we got on Andy, but
all right, you guys, be safe.
Yep.
Be clean.
Yep.
Be nice.
Yeah. Be kind.
Be sweet.
Be cute.
Be patient, guys, too.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, everybody's
just
patience.
Find it in there somewhere.
Stretched.
I'm digging deep with you guys. I'm digging deep to be patient. And you know what? Everybody's talking about everything getting canceled and blah, blah, blah. Nobody knows until the announcements come out. So don't have stress over things getting canceled. We got bigger fish to fry right now.
All right, now just chill. No expectations. Day by day. Day by day.
Day by day.
Expectations will disappoint.
And we'll be here. So
check
it out. We'll be here. So we love you guys, and we'll see you next week with more stuff and things. Smile at a stranger from 6 feet away.
Go buy one of Jay's fantastic books.
Go support No Simple Road. Just dance in your house.
Make
sure you put on clothes every day. I mean, even don't stay in your pajamas all day like I did today. Shower.
I did the other day.
There ain't nothing wrong
I
with that.
encourage it.
Okay.
I'm in my pajamas.
Or stay in your
If you stay in
pajamas.
pajamas all day, then the next day, then you have to wear a suit or a tux. Balance
home.
it out. Yeah,
Okay.
have fun.
Let's
People
do
are
this.
doing that.
Wednesday
People
will
are
be
making
formal day for
costumes.
the
Formal
No Simple
day?
Road family. We'll all
Okay.
dress formal on Wednesday for no reason. Okay?
All right.
All right, guys. We'll
Why
see you
not?
next
Maybe.
week. We love you. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
When did that become a thing?
Peace.
We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Like twist and turn, the mission turning, it's a journey. Wish the word is many problems, but it's a burden. Family needs has been deferred, and hella means been the earth, and alchemy can bring the birth, the melody of a newborn. So persistent, so resistant, so insistent, so commitment, so resilient, or haven't you learned it? No simple road. 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 My windshield is shattered as I focus through the spot in the corner that is still intact. The reality is both a defense mechanism as well as a fear. We've traveled this road before, so we may think, but it's a tad bit of strange similarities that feed an A equal A complex. The fears of your past do not equal the perplexities of the current road.
What's up, everyone? It's Joe, and I'm the host of That's Awesome with Joe, a podcast on the newly formed Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. I talk with tons of your favorite artists, managers, touring personnel, and more. Most of the time we talk about music, but lots of the time we end up talking about something completely unrelated. We laugh a lot. We do a lot of really stupid things, but also some things that are really informative and interesting. Basically, it's a podcast that I think you should listen to. Obviously, I'm biased because it's my podcast, but I think I might be into it if I wasn't the host. Check it out at soundtalentmedia.com.